the sports books. The Steelers began the day yesterday at minus 150 to win the AFC North ahead of Baltimore. According to ESPN Bet, that has now flipped. After the game, the Ravens go to minus 155. They're the favorites, jumping Pittsburgh. What you see now has plus odds. Do you buy it? I know this is, I've got my Steeler and I've got my Raven. So I know that it pains you to say it, but right now, if you were to log on to ESPN Bet and make that bet, RC, who do you think?
I'm not telling you who I'm betting for.
Who do you think wins that division?
You know what? I think I picked the Baltimore Ravens. I picked the Baltimore Ravens before this season, and when you thought about the way the Pittsburgh Steelers had to finish this season from a scheduling standpoint, and Bart understands this more than most, it doesn't matter that it's the Cleveland Browns. It doesn't matter that the Cincinnati Bengals are struggling. It's difficult to go through that gauntlet. It starts to feel like the SEC, where even Vandy this year can knock you off. And so for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that's still trying to find themselves offensively, especially in the red zone, I believe it's the Baltimore Ravens with, to me, the best player in football, Lamar Jackson.
But using your math, RC, we would have to say maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers, because we anticipate that the Ravens are playing a much better team this week and they're going out west. You talk about the Steeler effect. We always did that Steeler effect too. We knew that we would be wounded and going out to Los Angeles. We should anticipate that maybe the Ravens may lose to a really good football team.
Bro, who are we right now?
I don't know.
What's going on?
This is the bizarro world in which RC is talking up the Ravens and Bart is talking up the Steelers, and cats and dogs are playing together. I don't know what's going on. Who's going to win that division, Tannenbaum?
It's the Steelers, and let me tell you why. Because of Bart's lack of defense. And look, at the end of the day, you have to get off the field, and they can't get off the field. Their secondary hasn't gotten better. And again, post-trade deadline, you say, how does a team get better? And when I look at the Ravens, I'm hard-pressed to see how this Raven defense, we're third week in November here, guys. By this point, it hasn't gotten better, and I don't see how it will.
What do you say, Dan?
I mean, look, the odds are what they are. Like, if you like the Ravens, I hope you got them yesterday. But I think the fact that Pittsburgh beat them head-to-head matters an awful lot. And you see what the Ravens are doing right now. They're kind of trending the wrong way. They have another tough game this week, right? They have the Monday night against the Chargers, brother versus brother. So, yeah, I think I would favor the Steelers at this point, but yeah, I don't know that I trust them to hold up offensively. They have the cushion. That's the whole thing. They have a little bit of a cushion.
And I know you like sneaky big stuff, big news and things like that. I think the Tre'Davious White trade is something that sort of went under the radar. When you look at the game from last week, he only played a select few plays, but they tried to beat him deep in the end zone with George Pickens. He has a huge breakup there. Brandon Stevens is a huge liability to this team in the secondary, and Tre'Davious White could be replacing him. If he's close to what he used to be, that'll be big.
One thing, though, there is like three rule, which is basically if Buffalo's given up on him and the Rams have given up on him, how much does he have left?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for bringing me back, because now the hate has brought me back to defend my Baltimore Ravens. I was down there this week and I talked to Arthur Millette, and he said they're starting to figure some things out. They have a young Zach Orr is a young coordinator. He's starting to figure some things out, and they're starting to go. Remember, that's still the number one offense in football, so they can win by outscoring you, too.
To me, it's less the conversation about which team do we think is better. I think we think the Ravens are better.
Yeah.
The question is who's going to win more. The Ravens just haven't done all they need to do. RC, let's go down there. We're going to do RC's Game Breakers as we look ahead to what should be a very interesting weekend.
And I know everybody thought I was going to pick all these obvious Game Breakers. Well, one of the guys is.
Okay, let's do some less obvious ones. Yeah. We're going to pick a game breaker from each of these big three games this weekend. Let's start with 49ers and Packers.
Okay, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but my game breaker for the 49ers is somebody that you would expect. It's Christian McCaffrey, but Christian McCaffrey hasn't been the same guy he was before the injury. We watched him against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They used him in the pass game. Tampa Bay matched him up with guys like Levante David at the linebacker position, but we saw the Seattle Seahawks, and what they did was use Witherspoon. They used Love on Christian McCaffrey. How will he affect this game against the Green Bay Packers, which have trouble with Quay Walker and that linebacker crew, not only covering tight ends, but covering running backs, and especially with George Kittle banged up, we need to see CMC turn back into the guy he was before the injury.
Yeah, and that team is just so decimated by injury. In general, they need a big game from him. We just talked about Monday night. Ravens, Chargers, who's the player?
I'm going to go with Ladd. Don't comp me to Wes Welker McConkey. I'm tired of hearing people say Wes Welker. I'm tired of hearing people say Julian Edelman. Ladd McConkey was a dog at Georgia. And if you could be a dog in the SEC, you can be a dog anywhere. He made huge plays last week against the Cincinnati Bengals in the most important moments, and this is one of them right here, beating them to the corner, catching a football to set up J.K. Dobbins for the touchdown. Ladd McConkey reminds me of Emmanuel Sanders, who played with us at the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a guy quick, in and out of cuts. He also has the speed to beat you deep. And if I hear Wes Welker one more time, I'm going to break this freaking iPad.
Okay, so we've got McCaffrey, we got McConkey, and now we have the Eagles and Rams. Who's the game breaker?
Now, this is going to be sneaky. I know you're going to think I'm going to go offense. You're going to think Saquon. You're going to think A.J. Brown. No, I'm going with Quinyon Mitchell, the draft pick, the first-round corner that they picked. And what he's done the entire year is absolutely shut things down. So much so, Greeny, teams aren't really going his way. So what I want to see is, are you going to match him up against Cooper Kupp? Is he going to be matched up against Puka Nacua? We know how reliant Matthew Stafford is on his star wide receivers. I believe that this guy is a big reason why the defense is playing extremely well, and it's his play that's elevated this entire team, in my opinion.
100%. I mean, going back to the first month of the season, the rookies on that defense, Mitchell and DeJean and all of the Reds, a huge part of the reason why they've been so hot. But then, of course, there is the acquisition of Saquon Barkley, which has been a major factor. And in fact, on his podcast with his brother, your guy Jason Kelsey was making the pitch that Saquon should be MVP.